Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for some more Star Wars Battlefront II news. Today I have a lot of new hero information for you guys, and this is all coming directly from the hero designer on Battlefront II just a couple of hours ago, and for the most part it doesn't sound like these will be minor changes, instead being pretty huge changes to some of our favorite heroes. Let's start out with Chewbacca, who, as you guys know, is still widely considered to be pretty overpowered in HVV, and a lot of the community has been calling out for some kind of Chewbacca balance, as right now he is stupid OP in HVV, but not so great in Galactic Assault. I mean, he's usable, but I'd literally pick any other light side hero before I'd ever pick Chewie in that game mode. Fortunately, for those of us who are sick of getting killed in 3 shots as a full health Vader by Chewbacca, it was confirmed today that he will be getting a nerf, as they are aware that he is far too powerful against normal heroes. A lot of people on Twitter were replying to this and explaining what I mentioned earlier, that Chewbacca is definitely too powerful in HVV, but is still pretty underwhelming in Galactic Assault. Guillaume, who once again is the lead hero designer for Battlefront, did reply and say that this is a direction they are going with the changes to Chewbacca, giving him a huge nerf against heroes and trying to make him more viable in Galactic Assault. There's a lot of directions they could take with this, and I'm not entirely sure what route they'll go. I truly think the best way to do it would be to just rework his abilities entirely, as all 3 of his abilities right now are pretty much made for killing heroes, but I highly doubt they would ever do that. I think nerfing his Furious Bowcaster against heroes and buffing his regular Bowcaster against infantry would be a great start, and his Charge Slam should definitely be buffed against troopers as well. It's totally fine against heroes as it does stun them to the ground, but using Chewbacca's Charge Slam against a group in Galactic Assault is pretty much a death sentence, and with Chewie's new health on kill card for his slam, a buff to its damage against troopers would make him a lot more viable. I'd also honestly love to see Chewie get higher health regeneration, as right now, he just feels so fragile in Galactic Assault. I don't know, like I said, there's a lot of ways they could balance him out. We'll just have to wait and see how they decide to do it. Next up is Grievous, who, as most of you are probably aware, currently has a lot of bugs that need to be addressed, and this is something I hope DICE prioritizes, as right now, he is nowhere near his full potential due to more bugs than I can list. Guillaume did confirm several bugs he is aware of and is currently working on fixing. He said they are hard at work on the thrust surge issues and are also planning on increasing the turn rate of Unrelenting Advance and making it actually block all blaster fire, which currently it does a terrible job of. He went on to say that they know where the thrust surge issues are stemming from, which turned out to be exactly what I said in my video the day before yesterday. That is, if the player is moving, the thrust surge will just not deal any damage. I am fully aware of how stupid that sounds, because you'd think during QA testing that they'd realize that something as simple as moving would cause an entire ability to bug out, but hey, at least they're aware and will be fixing it ASAP. Guillaume also confirmed they will not be changing Unrelenting Advance to a continuous damage ability, meaning that instead of dealing X amount of damage every 3 seconds, it would just consistently deal damage to the player the longer you stay in its radius, which is what a lot of players have been suggesting to Guillaume. He said continuous damage output was tried during production, but with their current UI messaging on damage, it was very confusing for the receiving player, and it's too big of a change to adapt for just one ability, and confusing if it's only for that one ability, which makes total sense to me, so the best we can hope for is just a huge buff to the actual amount of damage the initial contact makes. Personally, I don't know what on earth they were smoking when they decided Unrelenting Advance should only deal 75 damage every 3 seconds, but I know that I want some. It should deal at least 150 damage, and honestly, I think it should just deal 200, because if you're actually dumb enough to come in contact with 4 swinging lightsabers, you should be punished for that. While using the ability, all you have to do is walk away from Grievous. He literally can't do anything, and his movement is totally restricted. I'm hoping that ability gets changed right away, because while I have been enjoying Grievous a lot, it's a little annoying only being able to viably use one of his 3 abilities. Another bug that I hope is fixed, although Guillaume has yet to address this one, is when you exit the Claw Rush attack early by re-triggering the button, the game just still thinks you're in Claw Rush half the time. You'll continue to hear the audio for the Claw Rush, and you won't be able to block or attack at all, leaving you completely exposed and vulnerable. I will admit it is a little fun, because if anyone touches you during that time, they'll be damaged like you are still in the Claw Rush animation, but it can also be really deadly because you have no way to defend yourself, and it's seemingly random when it occurs, so there's no real way to prepare for it or expect when it's going to happen. Also having to do with Grievous, if you're hoping he'd get a stamina buff, it looks like you're out of luck, as Guillaume mentioned in a couple of tweets that he was given low stamina for a very specific reason, replying to one particular person by saying, "How many times do you see Grievous blocking blasters? I will explain the reason for the low stamina in another tweet soon." Honestly, that makes perfect sense to me, because if there is one thing that I love about Grievous, it's how unique his standard block and attack is. He has absolutely terrible stamina, lowest of anyone by a long long shot, but his attacks deal absolutely devastating damage that no other hero can even begin to compete with. I like that combo, it makes for a very different type of playstyle, so I personally hope they don't give in and buff his stamina. Next up, it looks like Captain Phasma may be getting a full redesign sometime in the near future. A Battlefront fan wrote an absolute essay that I am not going to read about how he'd like Phasma to be changed. Guillaume did not reply directly to the person's suggestions, but he did say he knows the staff is not a fun or useful ability, and that he wants to take another shot on improving her gameplay. He said it would be a big change to completely redesign and that it needs to focus on the Clone Wars heroes right now, but she is a priority for a future redesign. I'm assuming by redesign he just means her staff ability, either by replacing it entirely or trying to make it a usable ability. Honestly, at this point, I'd prefer they just do away with it, or just make a secondary melee weapon she can pull out and smack people with like a lightsaber. Instead of something with a terrible animation, just make it a melee weapon that you can swap between like Aiden's pulse cannon. It could be fun, make it one-shot troopers if they're stunned by her droid, and a two-shot if they're not, and it would actually be a really fun time. As it stands right now, I'll literally never get that Phasma staff challenge done because I don't ever bother using it because it rarely works, and even if it does, I can just shoot them in the head faster than I would ever kill them with her staff because the animation is far too long. I don't know, right now Phasma is one of the weaker heroes in the game. She's totally reliant on sitting next to her droid, which I just don't enjoy at all, so I'd love to see her reworked a bit. A couple more small things that were brought up by Guillaume. He did say they are looking into nerfing Vader a little bit, although it looks like that won't be happening for at least a while. Personally, I don't think Vader needs a nerf, maybe a really small one to his health, but other than that, Vader is a really good hero, but not one that I necessarily think is OP. I never really have a problem killing him in HVV as he's just so easy to counter and just hit with blasters because he has a massive hitbox. I don't think a small nerf to his health would be a bad idea though, as long as they don't overdo it. Guillaume also replied to a fan asking about a potential Boba Fett buff, to which he replied saying he is working on it and has one big change planned, as well as a few other small changes. I've been saying this forever, but just give Boba an ADS for his blaster, make his concussion missile do a bit of damage because right now it's useless, maybe like 75 HP's worth, and he would be a really fun hero again. As he stands, he's fine in HVV because his rocket barrage is still so strong, but he's just a one-trick pony I generally don't enjoy using in Galactic Assault, even with his health on kill card. Seriously, it's frustrating because I feel like a fix for him would be so easy and simple, but they've just kind of neglected him ever since launch after nerfing his rocket barrage into the ground with the first few patches. Finally, and this is going to double as a bit of a PSA, they are going to fix Luke. I feel like a lot of people aren't even aware of this glitch, but right now, Luke's lightsaber doesn't work on the first swing, so if you hit someone, it won't deal damage until the second swing. I don't know how they broke this, but they did, so they are aware and it should be fixed ASAP. I was playing with Luke on Endor the other day and I was so confused why it was taking me 3 swings to kill a trooper until I saw a few posts about the problem, and that cleared my confusion right up. I'm actually really happy that the team over at DICE hasn't just forgotten about all the balancing problems with the heroes we already have, because I will admit I was a little bit worried that once we started getting the new Clone Wars content that other bugs would just fall by the wayside as the entire team at DICE focused on the new heroes and maps. I think most of the heroes are in a pretty good place, but Chewbacca has needed some major changes for a very long time, and it's nice to see Boba Fett and Phasma getting some love finally. I've seen a lot of people suggesting that DICE just swap out Leia's flash grenade for the officer, as I can't help but agree it's pretty bizarre that a hero has a far weaker flash grenade than the officer, and I'm a little bit sick of being unable to move and be blinded 80% of the time because of all the officer's spam. I know they announced they are working on balancing out the officer about a month ago, and while that still hasn't happened, I hope they get to work on it soon, because I just want them to reduce the crazy amount of battle points you get as the officer class, because it makes the other classes just less desirable because it's so easy to farm points for heroes as the officer, especially now when everyone is just racing to get Grievous before someone else does. I want to play as the assault class without feeling like I'm holding myself back by not just getting those sweet officer presence points that take absolutely no effort to earn. I'd love to hear what you guys think of all these confirmed changes in the comment section down below, as this is probably the biggest information dump we've had when it comes to balancing heroes in a very long time, and there are some big changes here. Guys, that is going to do it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to drop a like, and if you are new around here, absolutely make sure you subscribe to the channel. We are now less than 2,500 subscribers away from 100,000, and I'm hoping we can get there before Obi-Wan drops on the 28th. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.